right, Surfer Ray here, and this is today's project on the van build. These are Aluminess Nerf bars. They're going to be mounted one on each side here, so you can step into and get into the van. Plus, it'll also protect the van. And so we're going to get ready to install this one right here. Got my man Josman here giving me a hand, and yeah, let's get to it. Surfer Ray here, and we installed our two mounting brackets on using the stainless steel hardware provided. So we got that one up there, and then we got this one back here. It's very important that you use the anti-seize that comes with it, because when you crank down on stainless steel and then you go to back that nut back off, it'll actually bind in there and come like it's cross-threaded, and you'll be able to get it off by really torquing it, but then the bolt is ruined. So make sure you use this stuff. The other thing that's good to have is to have a laptop, because the instructions they give you are really hard to see what's going on. But if you go to their website at Aluminess and then pull up the PDF, you can come here and you can see it's a lot clearer. Plus I can zoom it in and out, and it just makes it a lot easier to see what's going on. So now that we got that mounted, what we're going to do now is we're going to get a clamp, and we're going to clamp this one underneath to this side where it goes, and then I'll get my partner Josman to hold up the other one, and we'll line it up and then bolt in the back and work our way to the front. Okay, here we are towards the rear wheel well, and this is where we're going to attach the plate for the Nerf bar. You can see this big plug up here and this little plug right here in the wall, in the side wall. And so this is going to go sliding up here, and then I'm going to get a clamp and clamp it on there. A bar clamp, spring loaded, is what's going to work best here. So that's one of these clamps right here. That's the kind of clamp you want. So we're going to clamp that on this end. I have on that end, I have a bunch of block stacks, so we can you know, help hold it up. And so that's how we're going to secure this end, and then we'll move on to the next procedure. All right, using the bar clamp, we have this bracket temporarily secured on here. So we've had to take this back down, because once we had that clamped in and we tried to line this bracket up with where it goes in there, it was not lining up, and so this whole thing needed to move over about a 1/4 inch this way. So we unassembled this end and we moved this bracket to the outside of where it clamps in here, and that should move this whole thing over the 1/4 inch we need to line it up. It's kind of funny because they say to do that, you know, clamp that and then bolt this in, and if we would have done that first without checking this, we would have had to, you know, move it, and there would have been holes in the van. So very luckily we're not doing that. So before you screw anything up, make sure all your brackets are lining up where they need to go. So now we're going to put it back in there. We're going to put this one back on, make sure it lines up, make sure this lines up, and then we're going to go ahead and drill these holes in and set this. So that's the game plan. All right, we're under the van here getting ready to put in the self-tapping sheet metal screws in here, which will hold this bracket up. But what's critical before you do that is you got to get this lined up with this little flange area right here. If it's too low, obviously it's going to go out the bottom. If it's too high, you won't be able to get to a washer on the back side. So you got to get this, and the only way we found it to do it is to get a jack and jack it up into place. Because you just can't hold it up there and try to drill it. So we jacked it up, and then we had this one sticking way over this way, so we had to loosen up our clamp and allow this side to suck up, and then re-clamp it back down here. And so now we have everything pretty lined up. This is the bracket that originally I was having problems with, to get the holes lined up with these flanges, and it sits pretty good. It's not the exact angle, but you know, we can make this work. So everything's got to be adjusted, but you're not going to get this up here without a jack. I can tell you that right now. You're not going to be able to get this tied up into here. that you need to in order to get your bolts through here. So now that we got it all set up, I'm gonna use the self tappers. I'm gonna put these two in, and then I'm gonna drill the 1/4-inch holes into here to stick my through bolts in here. So that's what's going on. All right, we got this bracket done. So we drilled these into place, holding the bracket. We had that jack holding this in the position we wanted. We removed the jack. Then I center punched my holes here. I drilled an 1/8-inch hole first through them, and then I followed with the 1/4-inch, and then we put these through bolts in here. So this bracket is secure. We went ahead and clamped this bracket into place because they want us to install that one next. And if we move that bracket in the wrong position, then this will also move. So this will hold this place in the bracket in the right place while we go ahead and align this one and drill this one. All right, we got the end bracket secured. We were able to get the bolt through the hole. It just barely made it in there because of how high it was up top here, but we were able to get it in. If it's the case where the hole's too high, you may have to drill a hole a little bit lower in order to secure it to that plate, but we were able to get it there. So now we're gonna go down to the other end and go ahead and secure these other two brackets back here. All right, we finally got this Nerf bar finished. So we had to do some MacGyvering, of course. On this bracket right here, this face does not line up with this face, so it's tight here, but there's like a 1/4-inch gap back here. So I just used the self-tapping screws on the two faces here, and then on this side we actually used the through bolt. And what I ended up doing is I stuck a nut in between the plate to act as a shim, basically. Screwed that through and then put on a nylon nut on top. So now this is really secure. And on this end, you know, we couldn't use this hole because this plug was right here. So we ended up drilling a 1/4-inch thing through the plate and, you know, putting our two screws here. Also, all the screws that we use that are the self-tapping type, we put on Loctite just to secure them. And then we just bolted these up like we did the other side. So this side's done. The only thing else I'm gonna do over here is I'm going to spray undercoat underneath all this stuff, including the bolts and everything, just to kind of give a little extra protection. All right, now to move on to the other side. All right, there was one more thing that needed to be done, and something I forgot to tell you guys earlier. When you install this bracket here onto the plate, you bolt it on through the oblong hole here. And then there's just a hole in this plate. So once everything's all tightened up and secure, tighten up this nut, then you drill from the hole in this bracket through this plate. And then you stick on the last bolt, nut and washer assembly, and tighten all this stuff. So that is the final step. All right, we got this side wrapped up. And of course, with experience comes quicker installation time. So, but we did things a little different. We clamped up the back like previous. Then we installed this one. And then we went ahead and installed the front one. And then this side one as well. So we installed all three of these first because this bar right here does not line up with the band. And so what has to happen is that we have to reposition this one. And so as you can see, we used some blocks here in order to get it to go out further. And then what we also did is we added 2 bolts here instead of 1, and we didn't use the hole up here either because that's just way too high up in there. It hits this other plate here. So we used 2 bolts to hold it, and we lowered down the holes a little bit. And now that I pull this out, it should stay there. If we can get this out, I'll have to pull that off with both hands. So anyway, that's what we're doing. All right, this side came out pretty much perfect. Very stoked on that. And like I said, the problem is this, the bar right here is going too far in that way, because this bar is straight and the van is not perfectly straight. So by the time you tighten everything up over there, this bar ends up being too far in. And so we put all those spacers in here and to hold it where we want it, and then we stuck the 2 bolts in like I showed you, and that works perfect. We're actually going to go do that on the other side because that bar is sucked in a little bit. All right, here we are on the other side, and as you see, or maybe you can't see, but the gap is different from the front to the back. This bar starts going in. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get those blocks and move that back out, and then put in 2 bolts instead of 1. And that should take care of that on this side. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal, but you know, it's not, I don't want to say perfect, but it's not just right either. So we're gonna make it better. All right, for the final touch here, we put rubberized undercoating on all the brackets underneath, just to give them a little extra protection, help keep them from rusting. Even though it's aluminum and stainless, it's not really going to rust, but it's just how we roll here. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you got something out of it.